What's up everybody? Today we're going to be talking about if you should get the Panasonic standard zoom or if you should go the Metabones route. Welcome back. My name is Jason, the Asian filmmaker, and today we're going to discuss a little bit about which option is the best for you. So we have two lenses here. We have the Panasonic. It is a 12 to 35 millimeter, which gives you about a 24 to 70 millimeter full frame equivalent. It's a constant aperture of 2.8. It costs around $1,000 new these days, or you could probably get a used one at about $750. And the great thing about this is it has optical image stabilization, which actually works pretty darn well. Next, we have the Sigma and Metabones combination. Now this, if you're getting everything brand new, it's going to get you to about $1,100. I actually got this lens used for $350, so you can get the full setup for about $950. This also is the crop sensor version. So this is not a full frame lens, and I'll get to a reason why in a minute. But on a crop sensor camera, you're getting about the 24 to 70 millimeters full frame equivalent. You do get a little bit more, I think, out of this, but essentially that's what it is. With the Metabones adapter, you're gonna get a whole extra stop of light more. So your T-stop is around 2.0, 2.2, somewhere around there. So it is gonna be faster than the Panasonic. And you also get the optical image stabilization as well. Here's a quick field of view test. As you can see, the field of view is quite similar between the two. Here I'm testing the image stabilization from the lenses. I have my arms fully extended and the lenses are zoomed all the way in. So without further ado, let's get into the pros and cons of why you would use either lens. We'll start with the Panasonic first. One of the pros is the size and weight. This one's very, very small in comparison. You're also going to get smartphone controls. You will be able to have full focus control as well as no zoom control, unfortunately, but you will at least be able to operate the camera and operate the lens as far as its focus. It's got a fly-by-wire focusing system, and to some that might be a bad thing, but it's actually not a bad thing depending on what you're shooting. So if you're gonna need to get some really, really finite critical focus, using the fly-by-wire system is actually much better in my opinion, because you can really just tune in to hitting that critical focus when you need to. Some of the cons. The con is, it is a fly-by-wire focusing system. So if you got to rack focus a whole lot in terms of what you're shooting, it's not gonna be the easiest, because you're not, depending on how fast and how slow you rotate the ring, you're not gonna be able to hit the exact same points all the time. So that being said, if you're doing a whole lot of narrative cinema work where rack focusing is a thing that you do a lot, you're not going to be able to achieve it as easily with a Panasonic lens. One of the other cons is, as compared to the Metabones route, is you will have a stop slower in terms of how much light it gathers. Now this is not a really big deal if you're in a decently lit situation most of the time, so I wouldn't really consider it a con against the lens, rather it's just a con when you're comparing it against the Metabones. So let's go over to the next lens. We got the Metabones Speed Booster right here, along with the Sigma 17 to 50 millimeter. And again, this is for an APS-C crop censored camera. Now the reason I am comparing this lens specifically is because when you pair it with a Metabones Speed Booster, it actually gives you pretty much the exact same field of view as the Panasonic. But there are a couple extra pros, so here we go. Number one is you obviously get the mechanical focusing system with hard stops. So if you're using a follow focus of any kind, hitting those rack focuses in your shots will pretty much be more constant than the Panasonic's fly-by-wire system. Because of using the Metabones Speed Booster, you're going to get a whole extra stop of light. So turning this lens from a T2.8 to approximately a T2.0, which if you're shooting in a little bit of low light situations, you know, that's going to be great. You get to lower your ISO a little bit and get a cleaner image on your camera. Another pro about this lens is you're not limited to just using it on Micro Four Thirds cameras. Obviously, if you want to use it on an APS-C crop sensor camera, this will do just fine, whereas the Panasonic lens, you can't really use it on a larger sensor camera. So some cons of this lens is that, well, the focus throw is only about 30 degrees, maybe a little bit less. Now, this is really not great in terms of if you want to achieve that critical focus. It's going to be a little bit harder for you. However, it is kind of a plus in a way because you can go from infinity to very close up very quickly. You don't need to throw that focus ring too far. And if you're following a subject that's running around really, really fast, it's going to be a little bit easier to follow with this shorter focus throw. And the last con is you're limited in terms of how you're able to focus with the smartphone app. You're pretty much only able to do in-camera changes. You're not going to be able to tell the lens to focus. Now, maybe Metabones will eventually have an adapter that allows autofocusing. So if that's the case, then we might be able to see some focusing features when it comes to using the smartphone apps with the Metabones. So which one is right for you? Honestly, you can't go wrong with either setup. It just really depends on what it is that you're shooting. If there was going to be one lens that I would get with the Panasonic GH4 and, you know, pretty much handles all my need, it would be most likely the Panasonic's 12-35. If you're shooting a lot of stationary subjects like talking heads, interview settings, or maybe just, you know, not a whole lot of high action stuff where you got to keep focus with the subject, this will do just fine. If you need to step away from the GH4, maybe you got the camera locked off on a jib somewhere, then being able to hit focus with this lens through the smartphone app is definitely invaluable. You don't have to move the jib around or anything. You can just do it straight from your smartphone. And the last thing is autofocus. If you do a little bit of photography and such like that, having autofocus is definitely a great thing. You know, it's just great when you can't necessarily always hit the manual focus all the time and you just need something to, you know, be very quick. And it does autofocus quite well, so that is that. So why would you use the Sigma and Metabones route? You would use this route if you're shooting a whole lot of fast action subjects, or if you need to rack focus and hit this exact same points each and every time. That's where this mechanical focusing system is going to help between those two. You're going to be able to do this a lot faster than you would with a fly-by-wire system. And lastly, the Metabones is just going to allow you to adapt to a whole other set of lenses, especially the vintage lenses. I have a nice set of old full-frame lenses that I like to use with the Metabones, and having it shrink down the image to about a crop sensor frame is definitely very nice, and getting that extra stop of light is also great as well. Now, why did I choose the Sigma as opposed to the Canon version or the Tamron version of this crop sensor lens? Well, you can't really use the Canon version because the Canon version has a protrusion in the mount, and that does not allow you to mount it to the Metabones. And the reason why I don't have the Tamron is because I've actually used the Tamron with this non-S version of the Metabones speed booster, and 2 times it fried the aperture motor. I don't really know why this happened with the Tamron only and not the Sigma, but as far as using Tamron lenses with the Metabones speed booster, especially the EF to Micro Four Thirds mount, there seems to be a whole lot of issues with them. So at this point, I just don't trust using a Tamron lens on this Metabones. Well, I hope this comparison helps you decide whether you want to go with the Metabones route or the native route. If you have any questions, please just leave them down in the comment below or hit me up on Facebook and or Twitter. I'll be more than happy to answer those questions. Of course, please subscribe because I'm going to be putting out a whole lot more videos now that I've switched to the Micro Four Thirds format, because it's a very exciting camera and there's definitely a lot of things you can do with the new GH4. So without further ado, we'll see you next time.